Anakin looks into the eyes of the notorious Separatist commander, General Grievous. While the Kalash warrior wasn't a Sith, he was filled with the hatred of one. Anakin can sense his endless animosity towards the Jedi, and Grievous has a palpable air of hatred around him. "You fool! I've been trained in your Jedi arts by Count Dooku," Grievous says before he splits his arms in two, pulling out 4 of his collected lightsabers before igniting them in front of Anakin. Anakin smiles, knowing that Grievous would be no match for him. After all, he had just defeated the legendary Sith Lord, Count Dooku. He'd commanded the 501st to victory on multiple occasions. He was a hero of the Republic. Grievous may have been tough, but Anakin feels even tougher. He meets Grievous's gaze, his lightsaber humming with anticipation of what was to come. "This is where the fun begins," he mumbles underneath his breath. Then the duel begins. Have you ever wondered what would have happened if Anakin dueled Grievous on Utapau? If so, then you're in for an absolutely banthatastic treat today, because it's exactly what we'll be exploring in today's video. So grab your big bowl of bantha stew and your steaming mug of bantha brew calf, and let's hop right into today's story. If you like what you see, please consider liking and subscribing, as every little bit of support from the Bantha crew helps us to continue delivering you quality Star Wars stories. Now, let's get into today's video. Our story begins with Anakin standing in front of the Jedi Council with a smug look on his face. "The Chancellor requested I serve as his special advisor on this council," he says. The Jedi look at one another, each of them sporting a look of concern. "We elect our own members. We are not subservient to the Chancellor," Windu retorts. "However, we have considered this request. You are on this council, but we do not grant you the rank of Master." For a moment, Anakin is taken off guard. "What? That's outrageous. It's unfair. How can you be on the council, but not be a master?" "Take a seat, young Skywalker," Mace responds, gesturing to the empty chair. Anakin bows. "My apologies, Master Windu." He sits down, now listening to the conversation of the council. Their conversations shift to various battles across the Outer Rim, and Ki-Adi-Mundi reminds the Jedi of the droid attack on the Wookiees. Soon, General Grievous is mentioned, and Anakin's interest peaks. "The Chancellor has requested that I go to Utapau to battle General Grievous," Anakin remarks. "No. Obi-Wan will go, and..." Mace begins. "Wait a moment, Master Windu," Obi-Wan states. "I believe that this would be an excellent opportunity for Anakin to prove himself as a new member of this council." Mace looks to his other masters, who stroke their chins in deep thought. "Commander Cody has worked with Anakin in the past, and I believe that his abilities are superb. The 501st garrison on Coruscant could also aid in this assault. I assume whatever duties that you are planning to give to my former apprentice, I will take. Let me give him a shot. I trust him," Obi-Wan continues. Anakin looks towards his master, a wave of reassurance washing over him. Even though the council hadn't given him the rank of master, clearly they still trusted him and believed in him. "Agree with this, I do. A good test for young Skywalker, this will be. Perhaps when you return, discuss the possibility of becoming a master." "We will," Yoda says. The other masters nod in agreement, except for Windu, who eyes Anakin with suspicion. "It's decided then. Anakin will go to Utapau to engage General Grievous," he says. Anakin bows. "Thank you for your trust, masters," he says with reverence. At the end of the meeting, Anakin begins to prepare the 212th and 501st for combat. However, just as he's about to leave the temple, his former master catches him. "Anakin," Obi-Wan calls. Anakin turns, looking towards Kenobi. His face fills with warmth, knowing that Obi-Wan had just stood up for him, and being incredibly thankful for that. "Ah, Master Obi-Wan, I'm glad that I caught you before I left," Anakin says. "Thank you for standing up for me back there." Kenobi places his hand on Anakin's shoulder. "You were meant for this mission, Anakin. I knew that the Council would trust you with it. I'll oversee whatever the Council has in mind for you here. Go, make the Republic proud, just like you've made me proud." Anakin beams with pride. "I certainly will, Master. Thank you for your faith in me. You've always been like a brother to me, and I appreciate your support, even when it seemed like the others weren't on board." "It was my pleasure, Anakin. May the Force be with you, my friend," Obi-Wan replies. "And also with you, Obi-Wan." The two give each other a bro hug before Anakin departs for the Republic garrison on Coruscant, ready to take on the Separatists on Utapau. While Anakin is going over his plans with the clones, Obi-Wan goes back to the Jedi Council chambers to meditate on his own for a little bit. Standing there, however, is Mace Windu, who appears to have been waiting for him. "Oh, hello there, Master Windu," Obi-Wan says. Windu turns to face Obi-Wan with a frown on his downcast face.
"You knew that we were planning to get Skywalker to investigate Palpatine. It was our best chance at learning more about what his plans are, and whether or not he plans to relinquish his powers at the end of the war. Why would you convince the Council to go back on their decision?"
Obi-Wan sighs. "I've sensed immense darkness in my former Padawan recently, Master Windu. His trust for the Council has dwindled. He needs us to be role models of the eternal, binding nature of the Jedi Code, not to be hypocrites. If we had made him do this to Palpatine, somebody that he trusts, he would have only descended deeper into darkness. Then, there's no telling what might have happened."
Windu nods. "Your intentions are admirable, Obi-Wan. I can see your dedication for your Padawan and the Jedi on display."
There's a moment of silence between the two as Windu formulates his next words carefully.
"Are you willing to pick up on Skywalker's duties here then, just like you said? Would you be willing to advise the Chancellor in his absence?"
Obi-Wan looks into Windu's eyes with a stoic determination. "I made a promise to Anakin that I would take up those duties while he was gone. I'll do my best to in this situation."
"Very well. When Skywalker finds Grievous, you will be the one to inform the Chancellor of his attack. In addition, you will act as his advisor and report on his doings to myself and Master Yoda. Am I understood?"
Windu asks. Obi-Wan nods. "Yes, Master Windu." Meanwhile, on the Venator in orbit of Coruscant, Anakin briefs Cody and Commander Appo on the plan for attack. He then tells them that he will notify them when he begins dueling with Grievous, and that's when they will come out of hiding at the end of the system and attack the separatist occupiers of the world. Cody and Appo both understand, and Anakin departs alongside his trusty droid, R2-D2, ready to take on the infamous droid general. After entering a state of meditation in hyperspace, preparing for what was to come, Anakin feels himself descending into his dreams of Padme once more. Her cries of pain penetrate his mind, and he sees her dying children in his mind's eye. He bolts awake over top of Utapau, wondering what would come of his wife. However, that was not his focus at the moment. He would slay Grievous and return to Padme, making sure that everything went smoothly on this planet so that he could come home and help bring peace to the galaxy, and to bring about a society that his children could grow up in and be proud of. Anakin goes to the surface, meeting with Tion Medon at the port of the expansive whole city. Tion secretly whispers to him that Grievous had been hiding on one of the upper levels with thousands of battle droids holding their city hostage. Anakin thanks him for this, and he hides in the shadows while informing R2 to go back to the troops and prepare them to land on the planet. Then, he follows the advice of Tion and finds the Separatist corporate council at the higher levels of the city. Anakin takes notes when the general tells them that soon they will be relocated to Mustafar in order to be safer. And then he follows General Grievous to the hangar bay, just like his master did. In an entrance that just as theatrical as Kenobi, he flips down into the sea of droids that surrounds Grievous. "This is the end for you, General," he says with a cocky gleam in his eyes.
"Stand back. I will deal with this Jedi slime myself,"
Grievous says to his droids.
"I've been trained in your Jedi arts by Count Dooku."
"Well, it's a good thing that I'm the one who defeated him then, isn't it?" Anakin replies. Grievous lets out a shout of disgust.
"Bah! Jedi scum!"
He lunges towards Anakin, who brandishes his lightsaber as the clone forces arrive in the sky of Utapau. "This is where the fun begins," Anakin mumbles, parrying Grievous's first strike and watching his clone soldiers begin their assault. After Anakin begins engaging General Grievous in combat, the Council instructs Obi-Wan to inform Palpatine of the development. He enters the office and sees Palpatine sipping on a cup of bantha brew, looking at a screen in front of him. "Ah, Master Kenobi. I hear that you're replacing young Skywalker as my special advisor on the Council while he's on his mission. What news do you bring me?" he asks. "Anakin has engaged General Grievous," Obi-Wan replies. "Excellent. Hopefully this will mean that the end of the war is near," Palpatine replies. "Indeed," Obi-Wan states. He's about to bid adieu to the Chancellor, but Palpatine gestures for Obi-Wan to stay. "Come, sit. I have the finest bantha brew in the galaxy," he states. Obi-Wan, feeling obligated to stay with Palpatine, sits down in the chair by his desk, accepting his offer of some bantha brew. There's a dark aura coming from Palpatine, and Obi-Wan senses that something seems to be bubbling to the surface within the man. I was also just briefed that the situation transpiring on Mandalore right now is going smoothly, Palpatine remarks. It seems as though Maul has finally been apprehended and taken into custody by Commander Rex and Citizen Dunno. Obi-Wan takes a slow sip of his drink, maintaining eye contact with Palpatine. That's good news, he replies. I thought you'd have more of a reaction, Kenobi. I know that Maul has been a thorn in your side for years. Finally, he will be brought to justice, Palpatine states. Obi-Wan analyzes what Palpatine had just said. While he had been correct, there was something strange about his tone. Obi-Wan couldn't put his finger on it, but something simply felt off about the Chancellor. Indeed he will, Chancellor, Obi-Wan states. I know that Mandalore will be happy that this maniac is finally paying for his crimes. While Prime Minister Almec has stated otherwise, I know that Bo-Katan and the remaining members of Death Watch have stated that they watched as this mad Dathomirian ran the poor Duchess Satine through with the darksaber right in front of your eyes. I'm sure that was not a pleasant sight for you, and it was a loss for the entire Republic that day. Satine was a voice of reason in the galaxy ever teetering on insanity. I had a significant amount of respect for her. Still do, Palpatine muses. In that moment, something in Obi-Wan shoots to alertness. There was an intentionality behind the Chancellor's word, and his voice dripped with a mysterious venom and contempt. Surely, Palpatine couldn't have known about Obi-Wan's connection to Satine. Could he? Surely he wasn't trying to manipulate him. Why would he do that? Maybe, just maybe, the Council's suspicion about Palpatine was correct. Obi-Wan finishes his cup of caf. Indeed, Chancellor. She was an incredibly powerful voice to the pacifist movement in the galaxy. I hope that her soul rests well in the living Force. Well, I'm not so sure I have the same views on the Force as you do, Master Kenobi. I certainly hope that wherever she is, Satine is at peace, Palpatine replies. Obi-Wan then stands, bowing slightly to the Chancellor. This has been a very informative meeting, Chancellor, but I must be going now. There's a briefing of the Council as to the status quo of the war. Palpatine smiles. Yes, you may attend to your Jedi matters. May the Force be with you, Master Kenobi. Thank you, Chancellor, Obi-Wan replies before retiring and exiting the office. Somehow, Obi-Wan couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss with Palpatine, and that he'd been trying to get into his head. Hopefully, his fears would be relieved shortly. On the other side of the galaxy, the battle for Utapau is well underway. Appo and Cody lead their troops with ferocity, taking out Grievous's droid forces with skill and adeptness that the mechanical being simply could not match. After being literally disarmed by Anakin and having 2 of his 4 hands sliced off, Grievous attempts to escape from the young Jedi. In turn, the Jedi Knight uses his ability to tame beasts with the Force to hop onto a boga and pursue the cyborg general. Grievous fires a volley after volley of blaster fire backwards towards Anakin, who deflects it back to him, trying to stop the momentum of his circular vehicle. Meanwhile, the backdrop for their battle is set, with the clones and droids firing ferocious rounds of blue and red blaster bolts at one another, each trying to achieve their respective goals. However, the Republic's onslaught was relentless. Eventually, Anakin grows tired of this back and forth with Grievous, and he comes up with a plan. He reaches out with the Force and uses the momentum of Grievous's vehicle against him, changing the trajectory only slightly and causing it to veer off course towards the abyss below. The droid general hops from safety as he's tumbling, though, grabbing onto one of the few platforms a few levels below as his vehicle splashes into the waters. Anakin ends up petting his boga, thanking it for the service, and then jumps down towards Grievous, who is stopped just in time for Anakin to land. I'll give you one last chance to surrender, General, Anakin says, a smirk on his face. Blah, Jedi scum! Grievous shouts before running towards Anakin, drawing 2 lightsabers to use with his remaining hands. Anakin parries the strike and he swiftly jumps over top of Grievous as they're battling. However, the droid general anticipates this, and he reaches behind himself to block Skywalker's attack. The 2 engage in a battle of skill of their sabers, as blow after blow is exchanged, and Anakin begins to tire. However, he draws on the Force for strength. As he does so, though, Grievous takes advantage of this brief moment of quiet from Anakin, slicing the blade across Anakin's right cheek and down towards his chin. He also cuts part of his chest as well. "Ugh!" Anakin cries out, reaching towards his face.
I thought that a Jedi of your reputation wouldn't give up so easily. Your lightsaber will make another fine addition to my collection,
Grievous says. He cackles before rearing for one last strike to take down Skywalker. However, in that moment, Anakin feels the same rage well up inside of him that did during his battle with Dooku. He lets out a guttural shriek of fury before stabbing Grievous through the heart. Grievous stumbles back a few steps before collapsing onto the ground, a stunned expression permeating his face. Anakin pants heavily, taking a long moment to breathe. Not only had he just defeated Dooku, but now he had just slain General Grievous. Anakin was even more a hero of the Republic than he had been before. He was starting to feel the weight of his injuries, though, and he collapses on the ground. Anakin then uses his holo communicator to call Apo and requests pickup, hoping to be admitted into the medbay as quickly as possible. Soon, he's swarmed by clones, and Apo assures him that the situation on Utapau is under control.
"We'll handle things from here, General Skywalker. You need rest. Go back to Coruscant. I insist," he tells Anakin. "The droids have essentially fallen apart without their commander. We'll be fine."
Reluctantly, Anakin agrees. He doesn't want to leave his men, but he understands the gravity of the situation and how he probably wouldn't have a significant impact due to his injuries. So, he boards one of the military cruises and submerges himself in Bacta, planning to rest until he returned to Coruscant. Meanwhile, Commander Apo reports to Coruscant while the Jedi are in a briefing regarding the status of the war via hologram, updating them on the situation with General Skywalker. Windu thanks him for this report, and he looks towards Obi-Wan after the clone signs off.
"Report this development to the Chancellor. Let us know how he responds to the news. We'll tailor our response accordingly,"
he requests. Obi-Wan nods and he leaves the room, heading towards Chancellor Palpatine's office. He's grateful to hear about Anakin's success, but he's also worried for his young apprentice. Hopefully, Anakin's injuries wouldn't be too serious. In addition, now, after killing Dooku and Grievous, there was no way that the Council wouldn't promote him to the rank of Master. He would be a hero of the Republic, and everything would end smoothly for the galaxy. Obi-Wan smiles as he contemplates this before knocking on the door to Palpatine's office. "Chancellor, General Skywalker has defeated General Grievous," he states upon entering. "He's injured, but he will make a full recovery. In addition, the clone forces have essentially subdued Utapau and brought it back under Republic control." Palpatine then turns in his chair to face Obi-Wan.
Excellent news. I shall prepare a delegation to welcome him personally upon his arrival here. I will also make an announcement to the galaxy regarding the status of the war. Hopefully, with 2 high-profile separatists dealt with, it shall be over shortly. I will also make an announcement about the capture of Maul and the status of Mandalore."
There it was again, Palpatine bringing up Mandalore. Obi-Wan tried to contain his emotions, but it was difficult. Palpatine can sense the feelings of anguish and frustration bubbling inside of Obi-Wan at the mention of its name.
"Is something troubling you, Master Kenobi? Your face looks downtrodden," he asks.
Obi-Wan shakes his head. No, I'm fine. I simply wanted to bring these issues up to you. Will you be relinquishing your powers once the war has concluded?" Palpatine gives Obi-Wan a knowing look.
"Obi-Wan, I've seen the face of a man who's grieving before. I've looked into their eyes, promised them that everything would be worthwhile at the end of this conflict. I can see that in your face now. If you ever need to talk, I'm here," he muses.
Obi-Wan's eyes narrow.
"And the war?"
he asks.
"We shall see what the Senate demands,"
Palpatine replies. Obi-Wan nods suspiciously. "Thank you, Chancellor." As he makes his way back towards the Jedi Council chambers, the Chancellor's demeanor towards him continues to be a sticking point in his mind. While he had done nothing wrong, and while he hadn't said anything out of place, his wishy-washy reply to the question about relinquishing powers was bizarre. In addition, he kept bringing up Maul and Mandalore, something that only a few people in the Order truly know the full extent of his connection to. Perhaps he was trying to manipulate him, again, as well. It felt like he was being played like a pawn, and Obi-Wan didn't like that. Something was amiss, and Obi-Wan was starting to suspect that he knew what it was. Meanwhile, over Coruscant, Anakin emerges from his back-to-bath. While he's still sore after the trip through hyperspace, and while he still has a scar across his cheek, he feels significantly better than when he left Utapau. Admiral Yularen checks on him through the hologram as well, ensuring that he's doing well, and that his ship was, in fact, the one that he was tracking from Utapau. He gives Anakin the clear, permitting his ship to land at the Jedi Temple. While there are hordes of people lined up to see the hero of the Republic, Anakin only really cares about one, He sees Padme among the throng of people and smiles at her sneakily, happy to see that she is still safe despite his dreams. They had continued while he was traveling, so seeing her alive and well made his soul feel content for at least a moment. After the politicians greeted Anakin, along with a photo op with Palpatine himself, Anakin sees Obi-Wan at the very back of the crowd while people are clearing out. "Ah, Master!" he cries out gleefully. The two embrace in a hug, but Obi-Wan informs him that not everything is as joyful as it might appear. He tells Anakin about his strange interactions with Palpatine, along with what he had said after he asked if his powers would be relinquished following the war. Anakin's face goes cold. "Master, I'm sure that I could talk some sense into him. This seems odd. It's not like Palpatine. He's a good man. Surely, you're mistaken," he replies. "I'll be confronting him later alongside Master Windu, Master Tin, Master Fisto, and Master Kola. I wanted to let you know so you weren't taken aback. Windu has plans in mind," Obi-Wan says. "Let me come along. I want to speak with Palpatine myself," Anakin says. "I'm not sure that's a good idea, Anakin," Obi-Wan remarks. Then, Obi-Wan asks Anakin if he had seen the pieces fitting together in his interactions with the Chancellor as well. Things that had been brought up from his past, emotions, trying to manipulate his feelings. Anakin thinks about it, and after his conversations with Obi-Wan, the pair empathize on this fact. Anakin realizes that something has been amiss with the Chancellor, but he is still adamant that he be included in this confrontation, especially since they were close friends. Reluctantly, Obi-Wan agrees, and the pair make their way to the Senate chambers to meet their Jedi colleagues at the gate. Windu initially opposes Anakin's inclusion in the operation, but he agrees, simply telling Anakin not to interfere with what they were planning. So, when they arrive at Palpatine's office, each of them is prepared for what would happen next. Soon, the fate of the entire galaxy would be decided. As they enter, Mace Windu ignites his lightsaber immediately. "In the name of the Senate of the Galactic Republic, you are under arrest, Chancellor," Windu says, igniting his blade. Tin, Fisto, and Kola are following suit. "Wait, hold up a moment," Anakin replies, looking towards the Chancellor, who is smiling despite the situation. "This isn't right. It's not the Jedi way. On what evidence are you convicting the Chancellor?" Palpatine looks at Anakin with concern in his eyes. "It looks like a coup to me, boy," he reacts, pleased to see the chance to manipulate Anakin once again in his hands. "You aren't innocent here either, Chancellor," Anakin says, shooting his glance towards him. "Manipulating Obi-Wan? By mentioning Maul and Mandalore? That's not normal. You've been trying to goad him into something," Anakin says. "Anakin, my boy, this is the influence of the Jedi. They're in your head. Can't you see that's what's going on? This is treason," Palpatine retorts. "Feels to me like the Jedi are simply trying to end a war that's been going on for far too long, Chancellor. The galaxy is fatigued. The men are losing faith in this government. Men like Fives," Anakin snaps back. "What really happened to Fives, Chancellor?" Palpatine smiles, dropping his grandfatherly facade. "Ah, you're seeing now, aren't you? The machinations of this grand plan. Finally, Anakin, you see. Join me, and we can forge the galaxy in our image. I can even help you save Padme." Anakin looks back at the other council members, whose faces are stern. Obi-Wan is the only one who hadn't ignited his saber yet, and his eyes plead with Anakin. "He doesn't have the answers, Annie. He's lying. You see now that he's a Sith Lord, don't you?" Mace Windu looks at Anakin firmly. "I told you not to interfere, Skywalker," he says. "Oh, be quiet with you," Anakin says before throwing Mace Windu at the wall with the Force, taking the Jedi off guard. "Anakin, did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?" Palpatine asks. "He could use the midichlorians to create and influence life, a power that the Jedi could never achieve. I can help you unlock this, Anakin." Palpatine tries again. "I can help you save Padme. I know about your dreams. I've sensed your frustration." Anakin looks back at Obi-Wan. "Anakin, we can support you too. I'm on your side. The Council believes in you. They've sent you to deal with Utapau on Grievous. Look at how successful you were. We support you, Anakin." Don't let Palpatine twist that fact. You're my brother. I love you. Anakin looks back at Palpatine.
You lied to me. This is your fault. The plan, Fives, the countless attempts on Padme's life. You lied.
Anakin spits.
I'll never join you. If you are not with me, then you shall be my enemy, Skywalker.
Palpatine retorts, firing a volley of Sith lightning at the young Jedi. However, he doesn't expect what happens next to occur. When Anakin raises his saber to deflect, the other Jedi, minus Windu, who's now in the corner, join in, reflecting the lightning back at Sidious. Because he's so consumed by hatred, the Dark Lord is unable to stop the flow of lightning from his fingertips. It's over, Palpatine! Anakin cries as he watches the Sith's face disintegrate into nothingness, eaten by the dark energy that provided him with his power. For a moment, Anakin simply pants in exhaustion. He then looks at Obi-Wan and hugs his friend. "Thank you for being my brother, Obi-Wan," he says. When the evidence of what had occurred is presented to the Senate regarding Chancellor Palpatine, Windu, Tin, Fisto, and Kohler are all charged with attempted treason, as they had ignited their sabers before a threat materialized. However, because Anakin and Obi-Wan had acted in self-defense, and since Anakin had tried to stop the ringleader, Windu, when he pushed him against the wall with the Force, they're acquitted. The other 4 Jedi are arrested and placed in a maximum security prison by the order of Mas Amedda himself, who's serving as the interim chancellor. After this, Anakin faces the council, who do not approve of his secret marriage to Padme, which has now come out during the fight with Palpatine. However, Yoda believes in Anakin. He doesn't want to alienate him, and he knows that Anakin has a good heart. So, he offers the young Jedi a spot in a diplomatic advisory role to the Palace of Theed, especially since he had experience with the world. He also offers Anakin the rank of Master after he defeated Grievous and Dooku, along with a role in the discovery and final touch on Palpatine. Anakin is elated, and he eagerly accepts both roles, taking a step back from the war effort. With little centralized government authority remaining, and with the military high command decimated, the Separatists begin to give concessions. The official parliament negotiates reintegration with the Republic, but radicals like Gunray and the other corporate council leaders who have escaped end up going into hiding, still advocating for their positions from the shadows. The Republic tried to root them out on Mustafar, but some of them had managed to get away, using commando droids to cover their tracks. A state of relative peace is achieved, and Padme is still placed at the forefront of all of these tasks. After they conclude and the Confederacy Parliament comes back into the fold, she returns to Naboo to give birth to her children with Anakin by her side. The two of them are elated, especially with Anakin's new position. Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Rex are also invited to be present for the birth of the child, and they all choose to attend. Obi-Wan tells Anakin that Maul has been placed on trial for his actions too, and would likely end up in prison as well, which quiets Anakin's soul. The galaxy seems to be at relative peace, with Mon Mothma leading the demilitarization and reconstruction committees for the galaxy. It seems as though the war is finally at an end. The Skywalker children open the door for hope for the next generation, and our heroes end up with a happy ending. Things appear to be going well for the galaxy. However, in the shadows of the high-security Republic prison, Mace Windu ruminates on his conviction. As he meditates and dines with his fellow Jedi, he vows that he will get out of jail one day and prove the galaxy that he was right and justified in his actions. One day, after a particularly bland bantha stew lunch, Mace crosses paths with Maul, who has also been placed in this prison. "Oh ho ho, another Force wielder. What fun," Maul says, smiling at Mace Windu. The galaxy may have appeared safe from the outside. However, some forces were still at work in the shadows, waiting for their chance to strike.